Have you ever think about life would truly be like if you chose to move into a nursing home? Perhaps you've considered this decision because it seems practical, safe, or easier for your family. But after experiencing it firsthand, I've come to realize there's so much more beneath the surface, so many truths I wish someone had shared with me beforehand. At 78 years old, I believed the nursing home would simplify my life. My children promised I'd have excellent care, companionship, and freedom from worries. But the reality turned out differently today. I share my honest reflections to help you understand this significant life decision from the heart. These 6 hard truths carry valuable life lessons that every senior deserves to know. 1. Losing connection with your true self. When I first decided to move into a nursing home, I understood I'd be leaving behind familiar surroundings, but I didn't fully grasp that I'd also be leaving behind pieces of myself. Before the move, my identity was shaped by simple everyday moments. Brewing morning coffee exactly how I liked it, tending lovingly to my garden, or quietly reading in my favorite armchair. Each ritual was more than just routine. It was a reflection of who I was, a subtle celebration of my individuality. But soon after settling into the nursing home, I began to sense a growing distance between myself and these small yet profound personal rituals. The uniformity of daily schedules and routines made little room for personal preferences or quiet acts of self-expression. Without realizing it, I slowly surrendered the very habits and interests that define me. My garden was replaced by potted plants I didn't choose. Books were reduced to mere decoration and mourning. Coffee came standardized, devoid of personal touch over time. This subtle detachment grew into something deeper. Losing these small daily practices meant losing essential threads, connecting me to my true self. I found myself looking inward, struggling to recognize the person I had become. My identity had been quietly submerged into a collective routine, leaving me feeling disconnected and unfamiliar, as though I'd lost something precious without ever realizing its true worth until it was gone. Reflecting now, I wish I had understood sooner how critical these personal rituals were, not just activities, but vital parts of my identity. If I could share one piece of wisdom, it's to fiercely protect these seemingly small aspects of yourself. Your passions, habits, and rituals aren't trivial details. They're anchors holding you securely to your authentic self, providing meaning, joy, and continuity as you navigate life's transitions. 2. Loneliness amidst crowds. One of the greatest misconceptions about moving into a nursing home is that it automatically ends loneliness. After all, you're surrounded daily by other residents and caregivers, yet what I discovered was a different, more subtle form of isolation. Loneliness amidst crowds. It wasn't the absence of people that I felt deeply, but rather the lack of meaningful connections, the kind of interactions that nourish your spirit and remind you that you're still valued. Initially, I expected conversations filled with laughter, companionship, and shared experiences to become my daily norm. But soon I realized that genuine connection was scarce, overshadowed by brief interactions that never seemed to scratch the surface of true companionship. Smiles were frequent, small talk abundant, but the deep, heartfelt conversations I'd once enjoyed with family and lifelong friends felt distant and out of reach. Despite being surrounded by others, I often felt invisible, as though my own story was lost amidst the sea of faces, each person struggling silently with their own quiet loneliness. Family visits, though cherished, began to diminish as my loved ones became busy with their own lives. Their jobs and responsibilities. Each missed visit intensified the ache of separation, leaving me watching doorways with quiet hope, wondering if today someone would remember to come. Holidays and weekends, once vibrant gatherings filled with warmth, laughter, and storytelling, gradually transformed into empty afternoons spent longing for familiar voices and the comfort of shared memories. What hurt most was recognizing that loneliness could exist so strongly within walls filled with well-intentioned people. It made me realize that true companionship isn't about proximity. It's about feeling genuinely seen, heard, and understood. It's about moments when someone pauses to truly listen, to acknowledge your joys, your sorrows, your past, and your dreams. Even now, if you're considering this move, pause to reflect deeply on your current bonds. Consider how to maintain meaningful relationships beyond mere visits or occasional calls. Cultivating real connections is vital, and loneliness can only be softened by genuine interactions that touch your heart and affirm your sense of worth, because the truth is, even amidst a crowd, nothing heals like feeling truly known and deeply loved. 3. The unexpected physical decline. When I first chose to move into a nursing home, my expectation was clear. I would be safer, more comfortable, and better cared for. What I didn't anticipate was how swiftly my body would respond to this newfound convenience with rapid decline. Before the move, I prided myself on my independence, daily walks around the neighborhood, cooking my favorite meals, even simple tasks like watering plants or grocery shopping. Each small activity contributed quietly to maintaining my strength and vitality. Yet within weeks of settling into a nursing home, I felt my physical condition unexpectedly begin to slip away. It wasn't immediate, just subtle changes. At first, the walks I enjoyed outdoors were replaced by short strolls down sterile corridors. Meals that once required preparation and gentle exertion became trays delivered effortlessly to me room. Gradually, I noticed a heaviness in my legs, a stiffness in my joints, and soon activities as simple as rising from a chair became surprisingly difficult. The more I accepted assistance for things I once managed on my own, the weaker my body grew. My muscles, once strong and reliable, seemed to betray me, fading from disuse. Perhaps even more disheartening than the physical changes was the emotional toll this decline exacted. I felt less capable, more fragile, and even dependent, feelings I had never truly experienced before. The loss of my physical strength wasn't just about reduced mobility. It began chipping away at my self-confidence, my pride, and my sense of identity. I began questioning whether my decision, though made with good intentions, had unintentionally robbed me of the very independence I'd sought to preserve. If only I had known that convenience could so easily become a trap, subtly inviting me into inactivity and complacency. I wish someone had reminded me of the fundamental truth that movement, even in small daily rituals, is essential to our well-being, especially as we age. Looking back, now I would have fought harder to preserve my active lifestyle, to push back gently but firmly against the comforts that gradually diminished my strength, because in losing my physical health, I realized I'd lost something far more precious: the freedom to live life fully on my own terms. 4. Losing the right to privacy and control. Before moving into a nursing home, privacy felt natural and unquestioned, an essential part of my dignity and sense of self. At home, my personal space was sacred, a place where I could freely make decisions about my time, activities, and routines without explanation. Yet entering the nursing home meant stepping into a world where privacy became surprisingly scarce, and control over my daily life slipped quietly away. At first, I barely noticed this change. The presence of caregivers seemed reassuring and comforting soon. However, I began feeling the subtle yet constant intrusion of others, making decisions for me: when to eat, sleep, or even how to dress. Small daily choices, once so ordinary, suddenly required permission or supervision. Staff members entered my room frequently and without warning, making even my most private moments feel exposed and vulnerable. This loss of privacy wasn't just inconvenient. It profoundly impacted my sense of independence and self-worth. The constant oversight made me feel less like myself, less capable and more dependent. It eroded my confidence as my own voice and choices became overshadowed by institutional routines. Reflecting, now I realize privacy isn't merely about having physical space. It's about having autonomy, dignity, and a meaningful sense of control. If I had understood earlier how deeply losing privacy would affect my emotional well-being, I would have advocated stronger boundaries. From the start, privacy, I've learned, is a cornerstone of dignity, a precious right worth fiercely protecting, especially as we navigate the vulnerabilities that come with aging. 5. The difficulty in reclaiming your freedom. When I first decided to move into a nursing home, I imagined it as a temporary choice, a stepping stone rather than a permanent shift. The thought of returning to my own home was reassuring, keeping alive the hope that my independence could be easily reclaimed whenever I felt ready. But what I failed to realize was just how quickly the path back to freedom could become obscured, and how challenging reclaiming it would truly be. Soon after settling in, the comforts and conveniences of constant care began to subtly reshape my everyday life. My routines became simpler, requiring less effort and decision-making. Gradually, without noticing, my independence weakened, making the prospect of returning Home, increasingly daunting, what was initially intended as a short-term arrangement turned into a lasting reality as the confidence and skills needed to manage life independently quietly diminished emotionally too. The barriers felt overwhelming. Fear crept in, the fear of being unable to care for myself again. The uncertainty of how I'd cope outside these supportive walls, and the lingering doubt of whether my previous strength and self-sufficiency could ever truly return my family meaning. Well reinforced these fears by expressing concerns about my safety, subtly discouraging the idea of reclaiming my independence. Slowly, the belief that freedom was still attainable began fading, reflecting deeply. I wish someone had explained clearly how profoundly difficult it becomes to reclaim freedom once surrendered. It's not just the logistics of moving back home or the physical challenges. It's also confronting the emotional courage required to step back into a life you once knew intimately, but now feels distant and intimidating. Freedom isn't merely about being in your own space, it's about maintaining the self-belief that you can and deserve to live life fully on your own terms, no matter how challenging the journey back may be. 6. Underestimating the emotional toll on family relationships. When I first considered moving into a nursing home, my primary motivation was to protect my family from the stress of caregiving. I envisioned a scenario where our relationships would thrive, freed from the pressures and daily challenges of managing my health and safety. Yet what I didn't foresee was how deeply this decision would alter the emotional bonds we had spent decades carefully building. At first, everything seemed manageable. Weekly visits, comforting phone calls, and familiar hugs exchanged during family gatherings. Gradually, however, our interactions began shifting. Subtly, conversations once full of joy, laughter, and ease became stilted, increasingly centered on practical matters rather than meaningful connections. I noted the hesitancy in my children's voices, the unease in their gestures, as if visits had become obligations rather than joyful reunions over time. Guilt quietly crept into our relationship. My children feeling guilty for not visiting enough, and myself feeling guilty for placing any burden upon them at all. Each missed visit or postponed phone call felt heavier, deepening the unspoken discomfort that neither side could openly address. The loving closeness we'd once effortlessly enjoyed began to erode, replaced by polite conversations masking deeper emotional struggles. Perhaps most painful was witnessing how my family, once my strongest emotional anchor, began drifting emotionally as our relationship shifted from genuine closeness to careful politeness. The nursing home unintentionally transformed family bonds from something beautifully natural into something strained and formal, making me yearn deeply for the intimacy we once shared. If I had fully grasped this hidden emotional toll beforehand, I would have approached my decision differently, communicating more openly, expressing clearly what we all hope to maintain, because the true strength of family relationships isn't simply about convenience or physical care. It's about the unspoken emotional bonds that sustain us, bonds that deserve careful preservation and nurturing, even in the face of life's greatest changes. Cherishing your independence. A reflection on life choices. Looking back, now my greatest regret isn't simply moving into a nursing home, it's believing it was my only option. Aging doesn't mean surrendering your independence or quietly relinquishing control over your own story. Rather, it calls for careful consideration, open communication, and fierce advocacy for what truly matters. Your dignity, identity, and relationships deserve to be protected at every stage of life. Before making such a significant decision, pause and deeply reflect what matters most to you. Your freedom and sense of self are priceless treasures. Hold on to them passionately, for they define the richness and authenticity of your life's journey. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.